Good evening. Welcome to tonight's Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. Let me introduce members of government that assist this board. To my left is Martin Simon, Assistant Town Attorney. To his left is Blaise Donadio, a planner in the Planning Department. We're all here tonight seeking relief from the Smithtown zoning ordinances, and it's our job to try to help you achieve the relief you are requesting whenever possible. It's up to you to provide this board with precise and accurate information so we can make a decision based on the facts presented. This board must consider the 5 area variance considerations in order to render a decision. They are as follows. Number 1, whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to the nearby properties will be created by the granting of the variance. Number 2, whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance. Number 3, whether the requested area variance is substantial. Number 4, whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. And number 5, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, which consideration shall be relevant to the decision of the board but shall not necessarily preclude the granting of the variance. Procedures for tonight's meeting. Cases will be called. I don't know. Cases will be called in the order they are advertised. When you are called, please present your certificates of postings and mailings to Mr. Donadio. Then you will be asked to go to the podium. We'll state your name and address for the record, and then proceed to tell us why you need the variance. At the end of your presentation, if anyone in the audience would like to speak on your case, they will be given one opportunity to come up and ask questions. Then the applicant can come back to the podium to answer their concerns. Once the public hearing is closed, no further information will be accepted concerning the case. There are 3 ways to find out about your case. You can stay after the hearing, but there's no guarantee your case will be acted on tonight. You can call the planning office tomorrow after 12 p.m., or you can wait and be notified by mail. We do have some adjournments tonight, so please listen. The first case that's adjourned is case number 18725, Basser Kaufman of Smithtown, LLC, Starbucks. That has been adjourned to December 13th. The next case that's adjourned is case number 1-18291, Stephanie and Cody Schwing. That has been adjourned to November 15th. And the last case that's adjourned is case number 18779, St. James Star, Inc., location 889 Middle Country Road. That has been adjourned to November 15th also. Okay. So if any of these are here for those cases, they're not going to be heard tonight.
18785 or 25?
I'm sorry?
The Starbucks, is that 18785?
It's the one in Wisconsin. Okay.
The attorney that wanted to speak?
What?
The attorney that wanted to speak?
No.
No? No, okay.
Yes? 187, that's on. That's on. You want me to go over the cases again? Okay. The first case is case 18725, Basser Kaufman of Smithtown. It's the Starbucks on Alexander Avenue. That has been adjourned to December 13th. The next case is case 1-18291, Stephanie and Cody Schwing. That has been adjourned to 11/15, November 15. And the last case that's adjourned is case 18779, St. James Star, Inc. That has been adjourned also to November 15th. Just those three cases. All right? Good, thank you.
All set?
Yeah,
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first case on the agenda, case number 18778, Susan Donahue, 49 Bennett Street, Kings Park. The location of the property is the northeast corner of Bennett Street and Cedar Street. The property is zoned RM7. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 25 feet to 10 feet, which is existing at 16 feet on Cedar Street, for a proposed 91-square-foot basement addition and 380-square-foot first-floor addition.
good evening.
Good evening.
Are you the applicant?
I am.
Could you state your name and address for the record, please?
Sure. Susan Donahue, 49 Bennett Street, Kings Park, New York.
Fine. Would you like this gentleman to speak on your behalf?
No, he's just my husband. I just want him with me. Is that
He
okay?
can't speak?
Of course he can
What would you
speak.
like to hear?
If he's going to speak, we have to get his name on the record.
Yeah, no, she's good at speaking.
She's good?
Better than me. She's got all the stuff.
Susan, the floor is yours.
All right. Well, thank you for taking the time to listen to this. My house is very small. Family dinner is very important in my house, and there's just something magical about having the whole family around the dinner table. But my current kitchen is 102 square feet. The house was built with no eat-in kitchen and no dining room. So my kitchen table's been in the corner of my living room for over 24 years. I haven't been able to host a proper family dinner. We have 6 people in my family, and even now we have to pull the table out for a regular dinner, and if all 6 of us are home, someone sits on the corner of the radiator. So having a proper kitchen and a dining room really means a lot to us. In addition, I feel that this would add value to the property. It will have no negative effect on the neighbors or the neighborhood, and it's actually very consistent with other houses in the neighborhood. I drove around and took some pictures of other houses on corner lots that were closer than the allotted setback of 25 feet. And I have 4 pictures right here of different houses, all within 5 blocks of my house. So they're very,
Would you like us to take a look?
yeah.
Okay. No, thank you. Okay.
I just, thank you for listening to our argument.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thanks.
No? Planning?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? No? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18780, Shabana and Ghulam Mehdi, 23 Byron Road, Comac. The location of the property, the northwest corner of Byron Road and Gaymore Lane. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the setback from lot line from 10 feet to 0 on Gaymore Lane for an existing 6-foot PVC fence. Thank you.
These poor people are gonna sit here and read all this. It's gonna be a long night. Be a long night.
Good evening.
Good evening, honorable judges, because my English is very weak. So,
Are you the applicant, sir?
yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Would you like to tell us why you need the variance?
Yeah, it's like, the variance is like 6 feet, so that's why, that's it.
Okay. We were at your house this morning. We took a look at it. The 6-foot fence does not interfere with any oncoming traffic from the other direction, you know. The visibility is fine with it. Okay. Okay. That's it? Okay. Thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
Oh, thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? You have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried.
The next case on the agenda is case number 18781, Matthew Rosenblatt, 175A Oakside Drive. The location of the property, the south side of Oakside Drive, 644 feet east of Landing Avenue. The property is zoned R43. The applicant is requesting a variance to increase the height of an accessory structure from 15 feet to 18 feet for an existing 501 square foot wood pavilion.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Matthew Rosenblatt. I'm the applicant. The gentleman to my right will be speaking on my behalf.
Okay. Did you hand in the necessary paperwork?
Yes,
Oh, okay, fine. Thank you. Sir, could you state your name for the record, spell your last name so we get it correct, and give an address, please?
Okay. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Dean Koutsubis. My last name is KoutsoumBis. I'm an expediter. I was hired by the Rosenblatts. The goal was to legalize an existing pavilion. The pavilion is approximately 501 square feet. It is 17 foot 4 inches in height, and that's something I'd like to clarify because the rejection notice says that it's 18 feet high, where the requirement is 15 feet. I was told by the building department that they always round up for situations like that, but there is a small difference between 17.4 and 18 feet. That's why I'd like to clarify that the actual dimension, and I measured it from the ground, is 17 foot 4, and that's to the ridge of this structure. The structure is approximately a year old. It was part of, there was other construction going on, which included a new pool, a deck, pavers, other improvements in the yard. And it is a newly constructed house, too, which was built the year before. This particular construction was a prefabricated pavilion. It was an Amish-made pavilion. My client was under the assumption that the contractor, being that there was other permits on the job, they were under the assumption that there was permits for this as well. Unfortunately, this did not have a permit, and it was built. And when in the process of trying to close the other permits, the town, discovered this structure, and we're asking to, that's why we had to apply for it, and that's why we're seeking a variance for it. It complies with all the setbacks. It complies with the lot coverage. The only difference is this roof height of, instead of the 15 feet that's allowed, it's 2 foot 4 over the ridge height. I'd like to also point out, which may help this case, is that the ground is at a different elevation. The backyard does slope from left to right. So this is set in the lower section of the ground, which actually helps our case because the pool is set in the upper section of the ground. So there's probably about a 3 foot drop from where the pool is to where this structure is. So even if you're standing on the main patio or the main backyard, this actually appears to be lower than it really is, only because of the step in the ground. To my understanding, there's no objection from the neighbors. There is, you know, it is far enough away, it is far from any properties. There's really no neighbors. There's a wooded area to the rear. It's not really visible from the street. It has really no effect on any neighbors. We feel that this variance is not substantial based on the fact that it's, you know, it complies with everything except the height. In respect to being achieved by an alternative method, we did consider possibly having it lowered, but it would be cost prohibitive, and also with a structure this size, it would lose the aesthetics that it has built at the height that it's built at. There is no environmental effects with a structure like this. It's completely, you know, outdoor structure, really to be underneath, you know, in case of rain or anything with the outside. And yes, yes, this was self-created because it was built without permits. That concludes my application. If you have any questions, I'll gladly answer.
All right, thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Excuse me. Anyone in the audience want to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18783, Eric Baum, 8 Muncie Way, Comac. The location of the property is the west side of Muncie Way, 232 feet north of Longhouse Way. The property is zoned R21. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum rear yard setback from 75 feet to 24 feet, which is existing at 37 feet, for an existing 569 square foot first-story deck, existing 136 square foot second-story deck, and proposed 360 square foot pool deck.
Hi, good.
One second. Okay, now, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for having me here tonight. I'm Eric Baum. I am the homeowner and applicant. I live at 8 Muncie Way, Comac, New York. I'm here seeking a variance to build and rebuild an existing deck in the rear of the home. Our home is in a non-conforming lot, as are most of the homes in this development. The rear yard is only a 50-foot deep yard, so you know, any structure in the rear would need 75 feet from the rear yard, which would be impossible. So when we moved into this house a year ago, there was an existing deck, which is similar to what we are proposed to do. However, this one was 20 years old, rotted, falling apart, and very dangerous. The railings were half broken off, and anybody could have fallen off and been injured. The homes in the rear of all of these homes in this court, the rear yard is lower than the front yard, so that when you walk out of your main floor, you're 10 feet or so above the ground level, so you do need some sort of structure back there for safety. All the homes in this area have a similar sort of backyard. They all require a deck for safety. They all have decks, and many of them have pools. Most of the neighbors have built and been granted variances to do similar projects where they have even a larger reduction in the setback than what we are proposing. There's really no other way that we could, maintain safety of this home or, get over the problem of having the raised exit to the home. There is no environmental impact. Behind the home is just woods and unbuildable property. And it does not impact negatively the quality of life or character of the neighborhood of any of the neighbors. I have a few pictures here showing the neighbors with the similar structures, and I guess that's pretty much a pre-existing, what was there beforehand. I have a picture of that as well, which is similar to what we are proposing.
Okay. Just a question. The deck from the second story, it goes down to ground level. Can you access the pool from that deck too?
From the, which deck?
Yes, the wood deck, in back of the house, it says second-story deck?
Yeah, well, it will be, when the pool and the deck is finished, it'll be accessible from there and gates will be placed up on it as well to
Okay,
section it off.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you. No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Anyone in the audience want to be heard on this application? No. Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion's been made to close the application, it's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Excuse me.
Thank you. No, we think we have them in the file. Thank you. Okay. Excuse me, there were a few people who came in late. We do have two adjournments. Case 1-18291, Stephanie and Cody Schwing. Is there anyone here for that case? Okay, that's been postponed. And then case 18779, St. James Star, Inc. That also has been adjourned. Is there anyone for that case? No? Okay.
And the Starbucks.
Huh?
The other Starbucks too, right?
Oh, yeah, the Starbucks and Wisconsin has been adjourned to 12/13. And the other Starbucks on the agenda for tonight. Yeah,
The next case on the agenda, case number 18787, Anna Maria and Darren Daniels, 29 Elderwood Drive, St. James. The location of the property,
You missed one.
I missed one?
yeah.
Oh, I didn't do Frank Pagano, I'm sorry. You're after this one. The next case on the agenda is case number 18786, Frank Pagano, 7 Winston Drive, Smithtown. The location of the property, the east side of Winston Drive, 332 feet south of Jericho Turnpike. The property is owned R21. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum side yard setback from 16 feet to 13 feet for an existing 871 square foot detached garage, to reduce the minimum setback from lot line from 1 foot to 0 for existing paving in the front and side yards.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Frank Pagano. I'm the homeowner and applicant, 7 Winston Drive, Smithtown, New York.
Okay,
And the gentleman to my left will be speaking on my behalf.
okay, fine, thank you.
Good evening. How you doing? My name's Ralph Michelle. I am the expediter for the project.
Ralph, can you spell your last name so we get it correct, please?
Michele.
Thank you.
Welcome.
And your address?
7 Old Landers Court, Smithtown, New York, 11787.
Okay.
Great. So this is an existing detached accessory structure in the rear yard. When they bought the house, it was there. It's just too close to the side yard. It's been there since 1970. And the paving on the side of the property, front yard, is on the property line, and so they're just requesting that it be kept as is. The structure in the back, you can't see from the street, and it's so deep in the back of the property, you kind of gets lost in the backyard anyway. And it's just going to be maintained as an existing shed and workshop.
It's a work shed.
Work shed, yeah.
Okay. I believe I saw a picture, had some air conditioning in there?
Is there an air conditioning unit in there?
That was an old one that's taken out, it doesn't work.
So
It's taken out? Okay. Is there any kind of plumbing or anything in there? No? All right. Thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions?
No, thank
No, thank you.
No? Planning?
No, thank you.
No? Anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you, have a good night.
Thank you.
The next case on the agenda is case number 18787, Anna Maria and Darren Daniels, 29 Elderwood Drive, St. James. The location of the property is the west side of Elderwood Drive, 158 feet south of Old Wood Drive. The property is zoned R43. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum rear yard setback from 100 feet to 87 feet for a proposed 1,560 square foot roof over porch.
Good evening.
Hi. I'm Anna Maria Daniels. I'm the applicant. This gentleman will be speaking on my behalf.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jason Merkel, Merkel, and I live at 11 Sims Street in Patchogue, New York, 11772.
Go ahead.
All right, the Daniels family is here today to request a rear yard variance, reducing the 100-foot rear yard zoning requirement down to 87 feet. The Daniels have a beautiful rear yard that they spend very little time in due to the heat from the sun. In response to this issue, the Daniels would like to construct a rear covered porch that would provide outdoor living space to the family that would protect them from the sun. The variance itself would not produce any impact on adjacent properties or the neighborhood, as it would not be visible from the street side, and it wouldn't block any views from the neighbors. The request is not substantial. We would be reducing the rear yard from the 100-foot required down to 87 feet. We've also done a similar variance request for the board here a couple of years ago for a similar request for her brother-in-law, her brother. And the Daniels have a large family that likes to gather together, so the matching of the porch responds to the existing house, matching the roof lines, and to provide the space and amenities that the Daniels are looking for in the covered porch, this is what was required. The variance would not cause any adverse effect on the environment, as the covered porch will be replacing an existing raised deck that's there. And the difficulty in the rear yard was created by the applicant's desire to have a more usable rear yard. So we believe that the request today is not substantial and would have no negative impact on the neighborhood. We thank you today for your time and consideration on this matter.
Okay. Underneath the covered porch, it says proposed patio? And
Correct.
steps to a ramp?
Yes, there'll be a pizza oven as part of the project here also, as well as some lower cabinetry work. And then the ramp is for getting, some of the wood up and down to the pizza oven, and then also, the parents are aging and stuff, so they just want an easy way of getting up and down into the covered porch area.
Okay. What's the height of the proposed patio off the ground? Like 8 inches or 6 inches?
It is 3 steps.
3
So-
steps, 8, 16, 24?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions?
No, thanks.
Thank you. Planning?
No, thank you.
No. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
The next case on the agenda is case number 18788, Mary Ann Ruggiero, 4 Washington Boulevard, Smithtown. The location of the property is the northwest corner of Washington Boulevard and Plymouth Boulevard. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum front yard setback on Plymouth Boulevard from 40 feet to 10 feet for a proposed 36 by 22 in-ground swimming pool and from 40 feet to 5 feet for proposed pool equipment.
Good
Good
evening.
evening. I'm Mary Ann Ruggiero. I live at 4 Washington Boulevard, Smithtown, New York, 11787, and I am the applicant. My contractor will speak for me.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is David Lewis. I'm the owner of Five Star Pools. My customer here is requesting a variance on her property. She purchased a property back in 1972, which is a corner property. And in that purchase, she didn't realize that with a corner property, she has essentially 2 front yards. So she's looking to have a in-ground pool put in the rear yard, which is, essentially a second front yard. And we're looking to reduce the boundaries from 40 feet to 10 feet in order to be able to establish the in-ground pool. There is no negative environmental concerns on this property, as well as no negative impact on the neighborhood. And she has an existing 6-foot vinyl fence around the property, which also encases the yard where the proposed swimming pool will be installed. I think that's it.
Okay. Did you do a test hole?
We did do a test hole also, and up to 10 feet, there is no water at 10 feet.
No water at 10. Okay. Thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
No. Anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you, Board.
The next application on the agenda, case number 18782, Tom Rule Tuzel, 92 Fort Salonga Road, Fort Salonga. The location of the property is the south side of Fort Salonga Road, 848 feet east of Concord Drive. The property is zoned R43. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum side yard setback from 24 feet to 22 feet, to reduce total side yards from 60 feet to 42 feet for an existing 422 square foot deck, to permit a wall or fence greater than 4 feet in the required front yard, and to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 7 feet to 0 for an existing 7-foot wall and fence with gate.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vincent Tremarco. I represent the applicant. I've submitted the affidavits of posting and mailing to Mr. Donadio. As you can see from the site plan survey submitted, the property is 1,000 feet long, but it's only 100 feet wide. Generally in R43 zoning, the zoning itself requires 150-foot frontage and at least at the setback line, and usually the lots are about 400 feet deep. I submit that probably this lot was created prior to the zoning, requiring the 150-foot frontage, and that's why we have this kind of elongated lot. The variances that we're asking for are for an existing deck, which you can see, if you look again at the survey, the one side of the house is about 19.5 feet from the property line. The deck we suggest you grant the variance for is actually about 22 feet from the property line. It makes it about even from both sides of this very narrow, long piece of property. Also, the area is very heavily wooded, so we don't feel that, it would have any impact on neighbors. With respect to the other variances, the wall, it's a masonry wall, and we're kind of stuck between a couple of rules and regulations in the town. One is if you have a retaining wall, and I guess they're looking at it that way, you have to have a setback from the property line. So that's why we're asking for that variance. I guess the building department thought it would be best to cover both ends of it. And the other part of it is the wall at one point in the middle. I don't know if Blaze has a picture of that up there, but as you can see, the fence gate goes up in kind of an estate fashion. So we don't feel it has any adverse effect on any of the neighbors. Whether it causes any environmental impact, I think not. Was it self-created? Yeah, we did build that wall, but at the time, we didn't think that the gates would be a subject of requiring a variance. The wall in itself is 4 feet high, and if that was a regular fence, we wouldn't be asking for a variance. But because it's a wall, that's the other reason why we're here tonight. So we ask for the board's favorable consideration. I have Mr. Tizell here if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thanks.
No, thank you.
No. Planning?
No, thank you.
No. Anyone in the audience like to be heard? Okay, come on up one at a time, please. Just a reminder, everybody gets one opportunity to speak. And when you're all done, we'll bring the applicant back to answer your concerns, and then the case will be closed. Thank you.
Good evening.
You'd state your name for the record, spell your last name, and give your address, please.
Sure. My name is Richard Wisniewski. That's spelled W-I-S-N-I-E-W-S-K-I. I live at 9 Spinnaker Court, which is adjacent to the property in question. The rear property line of my property abuts the eastern side yard of the property. As you can see from the picture, it basically runs the entire length of Spinnaker Court. So I am here to object to these variances. Number one, because as it was stated in the notice to myself and what I could see from the records at the planning department, they are extremely vague and nonspecific to these particular items. So granting a easement or relaxation of the side yard and lot lines would basically allow basically unfettered development of the property along the lot lines within those particular spaces. This property has been a nuisance to our neighborhood, and it will continue to be if this is allowed. There are multiple, in addition to the violations here, there are other violations on the property, and continuing to allow these, variances from the required building code is only going to promote more of that going on. So I am objecting to it for those reasons.
Okay?
Any questions?
No?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Hi, my
Good
name is
evening.
Mike Tinarello. I am 16 Concord Drive. Name is spelled Tinnirello.
Thank you.
One of the satellite photos that you have up on the screen, it looks like it's a very old satellite photo, because if you look at the top part of the picture is the north end, bottom part of the picture is the south end. All of that forest that you see in that long slip is gone. This guy deforested the entire property. Okay, so that's one of the issues. Another issue is he was only allowed to, after he built this monstrosity of a structure all the way on the south side of the property, he wound up digging out the rear of the property, probably about 15 feet elevation difference, then wound up putting a berm on top. If you go over to the topography drawing, you'll see that the topography from the south side is raised and then lowers as you head towards the north side. Built berms around this hole that he dug. So now all of the water that is coming from adjacent properties where there still is woods winds up hitting the berms and now spreading to the adjacent properties. So when we get these 500-year storms that we seem to be getting every year, we're getting a ton of water on adjacent properties. According to his original drawings, he was not able to touch any land beyond 10 feet from the structure he built back there. And he went back probably at least 50, if not more. Okay, it was supposed to be protected land, which no longer is, because he just demolished everything. Dug out, ripped out the trees, dug everything out. So it would be nice if you could, have a recent satellite photo that shows that huge empty lot now. So not only did this obstruct numerous neighbors going down this 1,000 lineal foot property, it's now redirecting water onto other people's properties. Okay, I noticed with the wall that he's building in the front, should be pretty obvious to any designer. You go down 25A, people have fences. They don't have a huge brick and block wall with these huge gates. It's not characteristic of the neighborhood. So not only did this guy deforest the neighborhood, now he's continuing to do other things that are against zoning. So we'd like zoning to step up and do something about this. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Who's next?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Joseph Kuhn, Kuehn. I live at 11 Spinnaker Court in Fort Salonga, and wanted to offer a few comments in addition to the previous speakers. I too and my wife are objecting to the zoning requests. The basis of my beliefs here is that the applicant and his attorney are making a mockery out of this board and of the zoning requirements. My wife and I and the others on Spinnaker Court built our homes 20 to 22 years ago. Each and every one of us followed the zoning rules to the letter of the rule, to the point where I had to account for every tree I removed with a brand-new tree. We are built on environmentally sensitive land, which is what is shown on our survey, and I believe is also used to be shown on the applicant's survey. The assertion made by the attorney that this wall does not impact anybody environmentally because it's heavily wooded is just an out-loud lie. As my previous speaker spoke, he's removed virtually every tree from that property, all 2.5 acres of it. It is a single resident zone. They now have built this monstrosity as discussed, and every time they come before you with a zoning request, it's portrayed as an existing wall, an existing deck. These are brand new built, right? They built them with blatant disregard to the zoning rules, and now coming before you as though they were innocent, purchased a home and had no choice, right? They had every choice. The wall that's built on 25A went up in 2 stages. The first stage was at 4 feet, is in my recollection, and several months later, they brought it up to the current height of 7 feet. Again, I believe knowing full well what the rules and the zoning requirements happen to be. So I again wanted to implore that the board abide by the zoning requirements. They're there for a reason. Every single one of us that have spoken so far have abided by those rules, haven't made a mockery of this board. In fact, we were very respectful in following the rules. The last thing I'll say is the applicant, when my wife and I approached him about our approach to building and following the requirements, chuckled and suggested that we use his attorney because he's known for getting difficult zoning through this board. And so I would again employ, true or false, ma'am, I don't know. That's what he told me. And so I would just ask that we follow the rules as written. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Oh, okay. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you? My name is Kevin Fabrizi, Fabrizi. I live at 10 Spinnaker Court in Fort Salonga. My house faces the Winooskis in that courtyard. I've been around this town a long time. I pretty much grew up here for 50 years, grew up in Kings Park. Now fortunate to have a property in Fort Salonga. My family is very, very involved in a lot of civic duty throughout that time. Many of you probably know the Fabrizi name in this community. This is wrong, and I'm going to tell you why. When I leave my property every morning when the foliage is, down in the fall and in the wintertime, I see a huge monstrosity on a hillside elevated to the left of the Winooski's driveway. There's not one person in this room that can tell me that does not impact the value of the home. Okay? I know. We bought this neighborhood because we bought a certain property that we wanted things to look like. And this impedes on the value of the home to the Wisniewskis. My recommendation to the board is that you fully investigate every aspect of this process and ultimately remove the structure and give no more zoning appeasements to the applicant. It's wrong. And I think we all know it. Let's look at it from a common sense standpoint. This man is looking at a monstrosity every day and spent a small fortune in his backyard. It's wrong. It's nothing more than a trophy showcase for the applicant. Hey, that's fine, okay? You're entitled to have all the toys in the world, but it cannot affect other people, especially in the pocket, okay? Thank you very much for your time.
All right, thank you.
Any questions?
Nope.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Okay.
My name is Julianne Mancini. I'm at 5 Spinnaker Court in Fort Salonga. I can't speak like these guys did because they spoke very well, but we are having the same problem at 5 Spinnaker Court. We have water, the same problem that the other man spoke about. Same thing goes on to our property. Our pool area gets a lot of water. So everything is riding down onto our property. I just wanted to put that. But everything that they all have said, we bought this property 25 years ago, and it was more just a very park-like property, thinking that it would be preserved like that. And all of a sudden, I feel like we kind of got railroaded a little bit thinking that it was just going to be a garage when it's like another house, per se, that I feel like we thought it was just going to be what it was, and it turned out to be something more. I don't know what more will go there. I feel like I don't know. I just feel like it'll turn into something more than what it is, what they're saying. It'll just keep creeping and turn into something else. Because that's what it feels like it has done to us.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Come on up, sir. Good evening.
Good evening. Vincent Evangelista, 7 Spinnaker Court. I live next to Rich Wisniewski. I don't have anything prepared. I just, what?
Just one second. Did you get his name?
Spell it? Evangelista.
Okay, thank you.
So what I was saying is I don't really have anything prepared. I'm here in support of the neighborhood, and I pretty much ditto everything that's been said. So I just want it on record that my wife and I are here and are opposed to everything that's gone on and everything that's proposed.
Okay, fine.
That's it.
All right, thank you very much. Is there anyone else? Anyone else? All right, when I call Mr. Tramarko back, that's it. Anybody else want to speak before I call him back? No? Okay. Mr. Tramarko.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Try to answer some of the remarks. The first remark was that the variance requests were vague. Just for the record, we don't make those requests. The building department requires and puts down in writing those requirements that we have to apply for. So it's the building department that writes the request. We certainly don't do that. Now, it seems like most of the people here tonight are upset about a very large garage that was built with the benefit of a variance from this board. We just didn't go and build that garage. It was approved.
It's not a garage.
Please,
If he's lying,
please,
it's not a garage.
please.
It's bedrooms. It's bathrooms. It's not a garage.
Yeah.
With respect to the water issues, as this board knows, every homeowner must contain the water from his property on his property. So if we're not containing the water, certainly the engineering department could look at that, and Mr. Tizell would be required to provide whatever catch basins and other water directing facilities to keep the water on his property. As far as trees being removed, there were trees removed, but it's my understanding, and Mr. Tizell is working with the planning department. He did plant numerous trees around the property, and I think Blaze can attest to that. And I don't know if they recently inspected, but there were many trees that were planted. Really, what we're talking about here is a variance for a deck, which I don't see anybody tonight complaining about that. Their complaints seem to be about a garage that we're really not talking about tonight.
Please. Excuse me. Excuse me. No one interrupted you when you were talking. I understand. I understand your frustration. We will look into everything. So please, let Mr. Tramarko finish. No, you, every- everybody, everybody gets one opportunity. I told you. Your concerns, we bring them back to answer your concerns. We understand. We're going to have the building department look into it and the planning department look into it. There'll be no decision tonight on this, but Mr. Tramarko finish so we can take the notes.
Thank you. Just to reiterate, with respect to any water problems, the board probably will ask engineering to look at it and see if there's any issues with respect to water. And I understand the neighbors' concern about that. Everybody should contain their own water on their own property. But the focus tonight should be on the wall fence and the variance for the deck. And that's it. Thank you.
Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion's been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. There'll be no decision on this case tonight, pending investigation.
Good thing I wasn't here.
Yeah, you were yelling.
What?
You would have been yelling.
Yep. I wouldn't have put up with this. You're better than me, honey. I got all them out.
That wasn't even the bad one, was it? That wasn't even the bad one, was it?
Right.
We'll hold off our decision.
Please, you want to go?
Just wanted to give him a minute to clear out.
Yeah.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18784, Jovia Financial Credit Union, 40 Veterans Memorial Highway, Comac. The location of the property, the south side of Veterans Memorial Highway, 504 feet east of Comac Road. The property is zoned NB. The applicant is requesting a variance to increase the maximum height from 15 feet to 19 feet for a proposed 51-square-foot wall sign.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Lydia Jimenez. I'm the expediter for Jovia Bank. I reside at 71 Hanrahan Avenue in Farmingville, New York. I'm here to request an area variance for a wall sign at 19 feet. The proposed sign will be replacing an existing sign that has been granted under BZA case 18237, dated approximately September 2020.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
No? Planning?
No, thank you.
No. Anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? No? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. I think, I believe there's a lot of people here that want to speak on Starbucks, okay? So we'll go over it one more time. The applicant will come up, he'll present his case. When he's done, we'll ask if there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak on it. You come up at one at a time, and you say what you have to say. in support or against, okay? Once you're done, you get one shot, so please collect your thoughts and write down exactly what you want to say. Then we'll bring the applicant back to answer your concerns. All right? No? Yes? Okay, thank you.
Okay. The next case, the next case on the agenda, case number 18785, Frank Menino, AKA Starbucks, 167 Veterans Memorial Highway, Comac. The location of the property, the north side of Veterans Memorial Highway, 419 feet east of Harnett Road. The property is zoned NB. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum setback for a drive-through order board speaker system with canopy from a residential district from 75 feet to 19 feet, to reduce the minimum setback of a curb cut to a residential district from 75 feet to 0, to reduce the minimum required parking spaces from 205 to 110, to reduce the minimum required truck loading spaces from 1 to 0, to eliminate the required landscape islands, to increase the maximum permitted square footage of a ground sign from 32 square feet to 42 square feet for sign number 3, to increase the maximum square footage of a ground sign from 32 square feet to 37 feet for sign number 2, to increase the maximum height of a wall sign from 15 feet to 30 feet for sign number 6 on the east elevation, to increase the maximum height of a wall sign from 15 feet to 30 feet for sign number 7 on the west elevation, to increase the maximum height of a wall sign from 15 feet to 29 feet for sign number 5 on the east elevation, to increase the maximum height of a wall sign from 15 feet to 29 feet for sign number 4 on the west elevation, to increase the maximum number of ground signs from 1 to 8 signs for sign numbers 1, 2, 3, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, to increase the maximum number of wall signs from 1 to 5 for sign numbers 4, 5, 6, 7, and 13, to permit 4 wall signs not to face a public street for sign numbers 4, 5, 6, and 7, for a proposed 2,572 square foot counter-service restaurant, Starbucks, with a drive-through.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Dan Peveraro. I'm with Key Civil Engineering. Last name is Peveraro. My office's address is 664 Blue Point Road in Holtzville. I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here with Mr. Frank Menino, the property owner.
Just want to state your name and address for the record,
Frank
please.
Menino, M-A-N-N-I-N-O, 40 East Main Street, Smithtown.
The subject application is for variances for the property located at 167 Veterans Memorial Highway in Comac. The site is currently under construction under a previous approval for a 24,954 square foot office building with a drive-through bank component. The applicant is currently seeking to modify this previous approval to replace the previously approved bank with drive-through with a Starbucks use with drive-through and associated changes to the site plan. The change from the previously approved bank with drive-through to the Starbucks with drive-through requires several variances. I'll go through each variance in a moment. However, it should be noted that 2 of the variances are exacerbated by the fact that the subject is split zoned. Most of the site is zoned NB, but the northerly and easterly portions of the site are zoned R43 and R10 respectively. Additionally, 2 of the variances being sought are for conditions that were previously approved and are part of the site that is currently under construction. Most of the balance of the variances being sought are for proposed signage that is typical for a Starbucks use. I'll go through each of the variances. 322-12L to decrease the distance of the drive-through order board system with canopy from a residential district from 75 feet to 19 feet. This variance notes dimensions taken from the canopy of the menu board to the interior residential lot line, or residential zone line, pardon me. The dimension from the face of the order board to the property line is actually about 70 feet, only 5 feet short of the requirement. This is the farthest that we could locate the order point and menu board from the adjacent property due to the fact that the building is already approved and under construction. The subject application includes an additional row of arborvitae immediately adjacent to the drive-through lane to supplement the existing and just newly constructed landscaping along the northerly property line in order to mitigate the impact of the small 5-foot shortfall of the distance of this to the actual property line. 322-28C, to decrease the minimum distance of a curb cut to a residential district from 75 feet to 0 feet. The curb cut in question was previously approved and is currently constructed, however, it's not opened yet. We are not proposing to move this curb cut at all from the existing conditions that are currently there. It's the fact that we're seeking a variance for a 0-foot setback to residential is merely because that portion of the site is zoned residential. It's actually about 46.5 feet from the nearest property line to the east. And again, it will not be changing from what's there today. The backyards of the adjacent residential homes in this area are actually closer to Vets Highway than they are to this curb cut. So it's not anticipated that the previously approved curb cut location would have a negative impact on the neighbors. The site was designed with the use of this driveway in its current location so as to allow for counterclockwise circulation around the site because the site was approved with a drive-through with bank. We are maintaining that situation because we are also proposing a drive-through, however, just for a Starbucks use. 322-62 to reduce the minimum amount of parking from 205 spaces to 110 spaces. The ITE parking generation manual requires 98 parking stalls where 102 parking stalls are proposed. So sufficient parking is proposed on the site. This parking calculation utilizes the peak parking demand for both the Starbucks use and the office use, which is not really how it would work. The Starbucks peak hours are different from the office peak hours. Additionally, there would be some efficiency of use because people from the office building would be using the Starbucks, and that's also not taken into account in these calculations for ITE. So that calculation is actually considerably conservative compared to what you'd expect to find in the field, and yet it still complies with the ITE requirements for parking generation. Section 322-63 to reduce the minimum required truck loading spaces from 1 to 0. Loading at the site will happen during regular business hours, but during off-peak times, utilizing small box trucks, which is typical of these proposed uses. It should be noted that the site was previously approved and is currently under construction without a truck loading space. So that would be a condition that would be present on the site regardless of this application. 322-65J to eliminate the required landscape island. The southerly and easterly rows of parking were previously approved and are currently under construction with greater than 20 stalls in a row without a landscape island. Again, this is something that would exist regardless of this application currently under constructed conditions. 322-69A to increase the maximum area of ground sign from 32 square feet to 42 square feet and also from 32 square feet to 37 square feet. These are nominal increases in size that are typically found at all the Starbucks that you'll see around. Their standard signage for the order point and the menu board, basically just to give enough room for drive-up customers to see what they're ordering and the menu and allow people to make quick decisions so they can order their coffee and get on their way. 322-69A to increase the maximum height of wall signs from 15 to 30 feet and from 15 feet to 29 feet. This is regarding the proposed Starbucks signage that is on either side of that small tower element that you'll see over there. If you notice on that elevation, if we were to comply with the required height of those signs, it would be sort of sandwiched between those two rows of windows on that building and sort of give the building a cluttered, disorganized look. Whereas located up on that tower element, it sort of highlights that and brings it all together. Additionally, Vets Highway is a 50-mile-an-hour roadway, so really you want to give people who are driving down the road enough time to see the sign and decide where they're going and make the proper movements, and this will help that. 322-69C1 to increase the number of wall signs from 1 to 5 and to prohibit signs not facing the street. Those two are similar reasons to what I just mentioned. Again, that's allowing drivers on Vets Highway to see the signage and determine that they want to enter the site. Finally, 322-69B1 to increase the number of ground signs from 1 to 8. The proposed signs include the previously approved monument sign, the order board, menu board, pre-menu board, and various directional signs. The only true, ground sign when you think of the word ground sign is the monument sign. Every other sign is really in an effort to allow for the proposed drive-through use or directing people on the site where to go to the drive-through or thanking them for being at the drive-through or stopping them, all of which are required for safe and convenient use of the drive-through operations. Due to these considerations discussed, the requested variance would not negatively impact adjacent properties, are not substantial, cannot be achieved by alternatives, and would not cause an adverse effect on the environment, and are not created by the applicant. At this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions from the board.
I would like to see the signs. Do you have pictures of all the signs? I'd
They
like to
are-
see what they look like.
Sure. Those are the building signs. That is the drive-through directional sign. It's relatively small. It just says drive-through with an arrow on it. So that would direct people around the site into the drive-through. This is the pre-menu board, which is the board before the menu board, which gives customers a chance to see what items are on sale or whatever like that, and give them an opportunity to figure out what they're ordering before they're sitting at the menu board.
Yeah, just a sec. No, it doesn't have it.
That is, this right here is the order point, which is really like an LED screen that changes where it shows what you're ordering. So when you order it, you can see that they're entering everything right and they have your order correct. And that is the menu board.
What about the large building sign?
Those were on that. So see, here on this canopy, that is the Starbucks sign and the drive-through with arrow sign, which are the signs on that elevation and that elevation that require height variances.
What about the signs you're asking for a variance to go up 30 feet?
That's this sign.
That's the sign?
Yes.
It doesn't spell out Starbucks?
Starbucks is spelled out on the front. That complies with the height. And this is just a disc logo at 30 feet.
Are these signs illuminated?
They are.
They are. Are they illuminated all evening, or do they get turned off when Starbucks closes? And if so, can I have the hours of operation?
The signs go off on a timer at 10 o'clock at night, during the timer.
10 o'clock.
Yes.
It's 7 days a week.
7 days a week, yes.
Thank you.
How about the ground signs? Well, I want to see what the ground signs look like.
The ground sign is a multi-tenant monument sign that was previously approved and complies with code, other than the fact that it's one of the several signs that we're requesting and we only get one sign.
Does anyone else have any questions? Tony?
The only question I have is, has to do with the queuing. We have some other Starbucks in the town that we have approved that queuing winds up being a concern. Is this allow for the amount of queuing that's expected at this site? I see that it shows 10 cars.
Yes. So the queuing is, sorry about that. The changes that are proposed to the site plan from the currently approved plan to this one are that we're lengthening the queuing lane. The existing bank had a drive-through located in the same location that the Starbucks drive-through is. But the queue for Starbucks needs to be a little bit longer than that. So that's why we modified the parking in the back here and lengthened this queuing lane. And it does comply with town code.
Okay. And for the use, obviously, we have a Starbucks that we approved in St. James that also applies, it conforms with the town code, but obviously we get a ton of overflow onto 25A. What is Starbucks' typical queuing? Because obviously they have enough stores. Is 10 cars enough for queuing?
That is typical of a site. That's what they would ask for. Typically, additionally, this site, because of the way that it's designed, the counterclockwise access around the site to get into the drive-through provides, and the fact that the drive-through is on the 9 o'clock side of the building, provides basically 3 full sides of queuing around the building. Even if you were to extend past this lane, the queuing lane, it would take another 250 feet until you start really impacting the road.
Okay, thank you.
How do you figure out the queuing for each car, the time limit? Because Starbucks is a unique animal. I can go into Dunkin' Donuts, drive in. You're there quite some time. And it varies who's in front of you and what they're ordering. How do you figure out that 10 cars is sufficient and if it's not sufficient, the queuing will go into the parking lot, right?
So first, for what is sufficient, Starbucks has opened up tons of these stores. I don't know how many, there's thousands upon thousands of them. And this is the number of stalls that they determine that they need. They are a use of convenience more than anything else. You don't need a cup of coffee or a Frappuccino or whatever my wife orders. So it's in their best interest to make these convenient and not something that's, a horrible experience. And their base design is for about this number of cars in the queue. So they have all this data that they know that this works. Anecdotally, I should say, when I order from there and it's something that's going to take quite a while, they'll usually ask you to pull off to the side and they'll come out with it or something like that to sort of keep the process moving.
Okay. Let's just say at 9 o'clock, run on stop. Cars come in. They're going to be queuing into the parking area, correct?
They would queue in the parking area if they go past this queue lane, but that's true of every drive-through. You can only give so much queuing space for a drive-through.
That's what they'd have to do. They'd have to queue in the parking lot.
They would queue to the parking lot, but they wouldn't impact the traffic on Vets or even the traffic that comes into the site for over 200 feet from this point. They'd have to queue all the way back to here, and even at that point, you could still access the site and access the parking and get back out. So it wouldn't really be impacting, you have probably another 10 or 13 cars of queue in here until that were to happen.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else have any questions? Planning.
Planning reviewed the application, and we provided all of the board members with a memo. Regarding our review of the signage, because they are asking for 13 signs in total, 8 ground signs, 5 wall signs, and based on the board's previous approvals of Starbucks asking for similar variance requests of an excessive amount of signage, we made a determination what the board would probably feel comfortable with approving. And in total, it provides them with a total of 5 ground signs, one of them including the monument-style ground sign that the site is permitted to have, and a total of 3 wall signs, which one of them being the permitted wall sign on the face of the building they're permitted to have. And we did recommend that the height of the wall signs be limited to 15 feet and nothing higher. That's what the code requires. And based on the exposure of the building, we felt that the 15 feet was sufficient. Just so that the people in the audience are aware, as was mentioned in the presentation, the building that's currently under construction was previously approved with a drive-through for the purposes of a bank. So the fact that the drive-through would be changed from a bank drive-through to a Starbucks, the use does not change. However, the board does have to take into consideration the type of request being made. This is now a counter-service restaurant with a drive-through, as opposed to a bank, which I think we all know today, not too many people go to banks. They're not taking their money out, they're trying to leave it in. So the board is going to take into consideration our review and our recommendation on the variance requests for the number of signs and the height of the signs, placement of signs, and also for whatever impact they may feel would be created due to the change of the use from bank to counter service restaurant. So I just want everybody to be aware of that.
Planning report from,
It was not a planning report, Mr. Chairman, it was a memo to the board.
There is one item. There is one item in that memo that respectfully I would like to discuss a little bit further, and that's the fact that there are a good number of trees over in this area here and another rather large tree right here that it does sort of block the visibility of the building somewhat from vets. And I think that having a 15-foot wall sign there would sort of hamper that visibility on vets, but that's, that was the only thing that, in that memo that I think needs a little bit of discussion.
Just so these are killing me. Just so you're aware, the reason why we kept it at the 15 feet, number one, 30 feet is excessive. It's basically double what the ordinance permits. And secondly, the chairman and I actually visited the site this morning. And can everybody hear me? Okay. We were traveling west on Vets Highway to get to the site. And we physically did not see the building until we were at the entrance to the building. So any sign on the eastern elevation is absolutely useless to anybody traveling westbound. And that's why we recommended only the 2 wall signs on the west side and keeping them at a maximum of 15 feet.
I could see that, and I understand where you're coming from with that and the tree coverage over there, but I do think that a 30-foot sign, because of that, helps once you do clear the tree line, you know, up to a point, obviously, but the higher it is, the more visibility you have from the street, and the better you're able to make a decision on what you want to do. So, you know, you have people coming down Vets at 50 miles an hour, you want to try to give them as much opportunity to make a safe decision on, oh, there's a Starbucks, I have to make a right-hand turn, I need to start slowing down. And I think a 30-foot sign would help that.
Well, we think that would happen regardless of the height of the sign because you really can't see the east elevation until you clear the tree line, which is maybe 20 feet from the entrance. So if they're traveling 50 or 60 miles an hour, I don't want them to say, oh, look at that sign up there, and then pull into the site. That would not be safe. So that's why we made that recommendation.
A U-turn would be much better.
A U-turn would be much better, yes.
speak on this. One, and come on up, introduce yourself, state your name, first name and last name, spell your last name, so we get it correct, and give your address, please.
Good evening, hi everyone. My name is Jamie Nelson, Nelson. I live at 14 Smiths Lane in Comac. And this is totally out of respect.
No,
I
could
just
you
have to
please
give
talk
my
to us?
opinion.
Thank you.
The front of my house is diagonal, right to the new building that they just built. My father-in-law used to work for the town, who told me that that building was just going to be medical. I did not know about the drive-through bank, which would have been a better fit, I think, for the community. The cul-de-sac that I live in is filled with small kids. It's quiet. We like it that way. So that my concern, and if I could just ask this, so I have a couple concerns. So if I have this right, you guys were discussing the signs on the front of the building. The way my house faces the back of the building, kind of like the side where the drive-through would be put in, is there a lidded sign on that side of the building? Or is it just the, like, where you order and it's kind of car level? Okay. So that was a concern. I don't want to look out my front door or my window and see a Starbucks sign in front of my house. It's also a concern because there's a Starbucks already on Jericho on the other side of the Mayfair Shopping Center, on the other side of, Jericho. It's congested, there's beeping, it smells. I don't know where the Starbucks crew plans to put their dumpsters, but when you drive, I'm a coffee drinker, I have to admit it's overpriced. I go to Dunkin' Donuts now, but when I did go to Starbucks, always a smell issue. They've shut down a few times because of the smell issue and because of sewer issues. Totally separate location, and I'm sure they have their issues. However, the where my house is on the lot, I already live behind commercial property, which is a shade shop, a bar, a salon, sushi, and then I have 7-Eleven. So I don't know the landlord. I've tried to contact him, who owns the fence, or who owns that land, like right on the side of my house. The fences are falling down, there's garbage, and all their dumpsters are there. I've cleaned up rats on the lawn and garbage. So my concern, more so than the signage, is the pollutedness of it, the smell of it, the beeping. Is it gonna be loud? I mean, they go to 10 o'clock. We're in bed by then. So I oppose a Starbucks at all. I don't know if it's too late for that, or I just want to kind of address my concern. There's a couple of people in the cul-de-sac that couldn't be here tonight that I know that they would agree. It was quiet. It used to be, before it was this big building, it was just trees. They would sell Christmas trees there in Christmas time. And you didn't look out your window or your door and see, this big building. Unfortunate, it's there. Okay. Like I said, I would have preferred a bank because nobody's driving at the bank. That would have been a lot less quiet. So I just kind of want to address my concern. Just as a community member in a residential area, I don't need to see illuminated signs. I don't want to smell Starbucks. I don't know where they're planning to put their dumpsters. Usually when you go through the drive-through, it's behind the sign of where you're ordering. So I don't really want to add to the issue that I'm already dealing with. That's a separate issue that I'll probably talk to somebody later about. So I just wanted to address my concern about not having them in the neighborhood.
Okay, fine.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Who's Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Barbara Pernat, P-I-R-N-A-T, and I'm at 15 Smiths Lane. So I'm right across from Jamie, so we have the same concerns, similar to what she was talking about. So some of the issues that we're talking about, decreasing, well, first of all, going from a bank to a Starbucks is very different. Banking hours as opposed to 10 o'clock, 7 days a week is going to negatively affect our neighborhood. Also, with regard to the speaker board, and when we first knew the building was coming, I had been at other meetings for other proposed buildings, and I just noticed on the drawing that the dumpster is literally right in the corner by our court. So I don't know, because the last time a building was proposed there, they wouldn't allow the dumpsters near those residential area. They had to move them on the other side. So that is just a new concern that I just saw in the picture. Also, when the building was put up, they took out many of the trees that were in that area, which did block a lot of the sound and motion going on Vets Highway. So now everything is down, and they have a fence up, a low fence, so we can see the entire building. My husband actually has a picture on his phone of, we didn't get a chance to print it, but we can see the entire, Jamie too, the entire side of the building. There are no trees covering it. There's a low fence, 5 feet, but all the signage would be glaring to our yards. The other thing is, right now, the lights from the building shine into my entire backyard. So we can't be, I mean, they're on all night, you know, when we're in bed and they're shining right into our bedroom windows. Also, having the curb cut less, I feel that the cars will be coming closer to our homes. Exhaust will be there. Another concern with the drive-through, having the queue longer, that will cause issues with the parking, because many Starbucks are standalone. So you can, you know, kind of wait and get in, but when office buildings are in there, that's when the beeping does occur, because they're trying to get out of their spot, they're trying to get, you know, into their doctor appointment or whatever else is going into that building. So it will be negatively affected by the people parking for the building. And then what happens, which sometimes happens with the buildings that we currently have, they start to park on Smith's Lane and walk through to access those buildings. So, you know, we're afraid that reducing the number of spots and having a longer queue line on a regular basis all the way to 10 o'clock will affect, you know, people coming and trying to park for their appointments. They're not going to be able to get in and out with a whole entire food drive-through. Let's see. Also, the signage does cause an issue because, like I said, with no barrier, we are seeing them all day. I mean, we can see the side of the building where they're proposing those higher up signage, and it being LED lights till 10 o'clock will negatively affect our you know, time in our home. Let's see. And the other thing, like Jamie said, the constant sounds of people beeping, trying to get out of their spots, and we are talking till 10 p.m. I'm up at between 5:30 and 6 o'clock every day. I go to bed very early, same as my husband. We work full time. We have, you know, we're not, it's not feasible for us to be listening to all of that till 10 p.m. and the lights shining and, you know, the constant drive-through. Also, like Jamie pointed out, you know, originally thinking it was a bank that would be run through bank hours. Now we're turning it into a food establishment, which would go till 10 p.m. That increases the amount of garbage, food garbage now coming. A bank doesn't produce any food garbage. This would cause a rat issue. And like I said, the dumpsters now that I saw are literally next to my house. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Who's next? Come on up, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Isa Martin. It's Isa-Martin. This is my husband, Phil Martin. I am a Starbucks coffee drinker. Sorry? Oh, I'm sorry, 20 Starlight Drive in Comac, New York. I'm actually in the same neighborhood as Mrs. Nelson and her lovely neighbor. It is a very nice neighborhood. It's beautiful. We don't live in the cul-de-sac, but we live in the neighborhood. Plenty of kids, you know, running around. I walk my dogs often. I am a coffee drinker. I do enjoy Starbucks. I also enjoy Dunkin' Donuts. But I echo their sentiments where it's just, in our opinion, for the record, we don't think it's an appropriate use for that building. The location, if it's been determined that Starbucks will be there, I guess there's nothing that we can do about it, but it would be our preference to not have a food establishment in that location for various reasons, of which Mrs. Nelson has echoed, which I, of course, agree with, not to mention the environmental impact, the pollution, the rats and rodents. Our property on 20 Starlight Drive butts up against Vets Highway. It is a 50-mile-an-hour highway. We hear constant motor vehicles, drag racing, so on and so forth. If there is a possibility of constructing a sound barrier, a fancy wall that would separate the development of our houses to 454, that would be wonderful. Not sure if it's a county road, if it's a state road. Anything else you want to add?
No, just to add on to that, the rear of the building where they're proposing that circle sign faces the neighborhood. You can't see it from a street area. So all you're gonna do is illuminate the neighborhood. So doesn't seem appropriate so that the neighborhood can go out at night to walk our dogs or whatever at night and see a Starbucks sign glowing in the sky like the moon. So that rear-facing sign doesn't seem appropriate to us. There's also, from what I see on that map, it's one egress in, one egress out, so it's one area for cars to come in. If you look at the Starbucks on Jericho, there's always a line that goes into Jericho, causing a delay and causing traffic issues. So when my wife mentioned putting up a sound barrier, we're concerned about cars lining up on Vets Highway to come into this lot to go, and now cars are slowing down, causing more and more noise pollution, more exhaust fumes going into the neighborhood that weren't there because the cars aren't stopping there. They're not slowing down. They were just going past. So now you're causing a reason for them to slow down, giving us more fumes to smell when they idle and try and go into the lot or idle in the lot.
Mr. Chairman, you referenced that you had driven by the location, the proposed location earlier this morning.
Yes.
Did you not? I would highly recommend you do so for the Starbucks location on Jericho Turnpike, the same location that Mrs. Nelson referenced earlier. It's the one directly on Jericho Turnpike across the street from the Mayfair Shopping Center. I suggest you drive there or by there between the hours of 7 a.m. and 9:30 a.m. to understand the queuing problem that current location experiences on a daily basis. There's also been mention that the Starbucks location is open until 10 p.m. When does Starbucks open daily? I believe it's 5 a.m.?
We'll ask.
Okay.
Okay.
That's a concern as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Christopher Minerva, and my wife Teresa. We live at 8 Starlight Drive in Comac, so we're right boarding behind this establishment. My last name is, my name is Minerva, M-I-N-E-R-V-A, Minerva. Yes. Okay, so we've lived in our house 30 years. We enjoy our backyard. Our main concerns kind of echo what our neighbors have already stated here. But our primary concerns is the noise, the light, the exhaust fumes. From our backyards, people are going to be queuing. They're going to be placing an order at a queue board. We're going to be hearing that from our backyard. All day, every day, people placing coffee orders. It's going to certainly inhibit the use of our backyards. The other Starbucks that they referenced that's on across from Mayfair, it's less than a mile away. Plenty of Starbucks opportunities for the neighborhood to get their coffee. They have certainly queuing issues over there. So some of our concerns is, like I said, the sound. So has a sound test been conducted to determine whether or not the neighbors will be impacted by people placing their orders, by the cars coming through, by the people speaking in and out of that board, shouting their orders? Will that be heard from the neighboring properties? And that's certainly a big concern.
Right, and it's certainly going to be heard from outside, but if I open my windows, I'm going to hear it in my house.
Right, so if we're in our house, in the summertime, we might have our windows open, people are going to be placing orders, so not even inside of our house, we're close enough that from that order board, from where it appears to be on that board there, that we're going to be hearing that inside of our house all day.
I think where the water board is, it's about 70 feet to the property line.
70 feet.
I can't see it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're right in that corner, the northwest corner there. So that's pretty close. right behind that dumpster location, that certainly appears to be, like the neighbors had echoed. Certainly concern is, any kind of pests, rodents, all that kind of stuff. So the wooden fences that they put around the property, stockade fences, very low. Wooden fences are not known to last very long. Is there a plan to replace them with perhaps something taller and maybe a little more secure? Something a little longer lasting, something that would block the sound and light. Like one of the neighbors echoed, if something really tall that could block the sound and light, that would certainly be ideal. So, yeah, what hours would the dumpster in the backyard, so in the property, when will it be picked up? Are we gonna hear garbage trucks at like 5 in the morning or late at night from our houses emptying these, dumpsters?
Right,
And who's
who's gonna ensure that the area is kept clean?
going to ensure that the area around the dumpster is actually kept clean? Garbage from, people putting garbage into dumpsters, taking out of dumpsters, stuff falls. I mean, that's going to attract vermin.
And the difference between a bank drive-through and a fast food drive-through is a bank is...
Excuse me, can you use the
sorry.
microphone so we can get what you're saying?
The difference between a bank drive-through and a fast food drive-through is it's only open, minimal amount of hours for a bank. It's open all day for a fast food. And in a bank, no one's screaming orders. They're putting their thing in a tube, they're sending it up. No one's going back and forth over a loudspeaker. It's a huge difference between a drive-through for a food versus a bank. And that's one of my main concerns. I won't be able to enjoy my backyard and probably my house if I have to open the windows if I'm hearing orders all day long.
And we have talked about the hours ending at 10 o'clock in the morning. We talked about the morning. I don't get up as early as some neighbors. If I'm going to be hearing orders at 5:30, 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning, it's going to be waking me up. That's certainly not something that you would get at a bank. They would not be there at that hours.
And about if there's lights or cameras facing the property.
Right, so in the drive-through area, a lot of places like this may have security cameras. Are there going to be security cameras facing the residential neighborhoods and properties? What are they going to be recording? Am I going to be like in my backyard enjoying a day off, and are people going to be recording me?
I will ask.
And the lights, the lights facing the properties.
So the signage facing the residential neighbors, are those signs lighted? We don't want to be seeing lighted signs from our yards. Understand that?
And I'm being very curious if they didn't, in fact, have they actually done a study?
So has an environmental impact study actually been conducted on the usage of Starbucks in this location?
Has what?
An environmental impact study been done?
No.
For
No.
sound?
But there'll be no decision tonight, and the environmental people want to review all the minutes from the meeting. That's why it's important that we get everybody on record.
Okay. And I did submit a letter to the board. I did send that in, so some of my questions and concerns are listed there.
Okay.
Okay.
I think that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Who's next? You have to come, we have to get you on record, please.
She already came up, and she's on her
Yeah.
camera.
No, I think I have to put their phone in the file.
We didn't get the chance to print it out, but that's the side of the building, this is my home,
Mhm.
and this is where all the trees were taken down. That's
Okay.
what I wanted to show.
Can we go through your husband's pictures? No.
But I need that for the file now, so I'll have to surrender your phone.
Okay, thank you. Give everybody one opportunity.
It's unrelated to Starbucks, though. So my name is Phil Martin. I just wanted to know, are there any other planned eateries in the retail space that we should know about? We didn't know.
To the best of my knowledge, no. Okay. All right. Who else would like to speak on Starbucks? Anybody else want to speak on Starbucks? Okay, I'm going to bring the applicant back, and that's it. All right? Come on back.
All right. So I apologize. I think part of my presentation was a little unclear, and I think this will clear up a number of the comments. This is the rear elevation of the building. This is what faces the back of the property. There are no signs on that elevation. The signs that we're here tonight to talk about are on the sides, all the way at the front. So they're on the sides of the building, all the way by vets. So there are no signs that are pointed towards the residences.
Can we just get the hours of operation?
Hours of operation are, they open at 6, start serving at 7, and then they're closing at 10.
Okay. Your staff comes in at 6 and then gets set up, and you start serving at 7? Okay, thank you.
Took some notes here. Clear that up. The dumpsters are located in the back, the northwest corner of the site. This is more or less where the dumpster was previously proposed to be, and as part of the previous application, and is adjacent to the next door neighbor's dumpster as well, which contains a bunch of food uses, et cetera. So it's also worth noting that Starbucks does not cook on site. So in terms of smells and trash generation, it's not as much as a it doesn't operate like a normal drive-through restaurant does. They don't actually cook anything. Everything's cooked off-site. They bring it in, they heat it up in like a toaster, and they hand it to you, or they make you a drink. So there's not like a smog hog on top of the building, or because there's no need, because there's no cooking. So
There is a dumpster enclosure, correct?
correct. The dumpster is in an enclosure, and there's a fence on the other side of the enclosure also. So it's in an enclosure inside of an enclosure between us and the neighbors.
I guess you don't know the hours of pickup. I'm assuming it's in the morning?
So the hours of pickup will be during business hours, but off-peak. So it can vary, but that's where they get picked up while they're still open. They don't get picked up in the middle of the night, but not during their peak hours. Like, they're not going to get picked up at like 8 or 9 a.m. because that's when people are using the Starbucks. So it'll probably be sometime in the afternoon, but it does vary.
Like 2 or 3?
Probably, yeah.
Thank you.
And then it's also notable that the bank ATM that was previously approved, those are open 24/7, whereas this drive-through closes down at night. So you could have people coming into the site at all hours of the night to use the drive-through to the bank. That won't be happening with this use. Further, the drive-through aspect and the use are not part of the variances being sought in and of themselves. The use in the drive-through can exist without the variances.
Excuse me, you're just a tenant in this building?
I'm representing the property owner.
Okay. So then, there were some complaints about lights on the building shining into the neighbor's property. We have to get that corrected.
We can look at that. The lights, as far as I know, were installed per the approved plans. I'm not quite sure why they would be shining into a building that
And that was facing down and shielded.
they were dark sky compliant, so they would be shielded. The houses are pretty far away.
If we could shield the lights to make it more controlled towards the property.
Okay.
And there will be no lights on the building shining on the tenants either way.
All right, thank you.
One of the comments was regarding the removal of trees. Mr. Menino planted row of trees in the back pursuant to the previously approved site plan. They are the normal size. They're 7 feet tall right now because they just got installed. The building's just getting finished up. Given a couple of years, those are expected to grow. I believe they're arborvitaes and lelands. So they'll be, 30 feet tall given time. It's just going to take some time for it to grow in because it is a newly constructed site. There was some comment about hearing noises from beeps and backups at night. That wouldn't be expected at, the later hours of the Starbucks use. The office use is going to be basically completely empty, minus, somebody completing some late night work, but there won't be anyone really in the building other than the Starbucks use. So at night, after normal business hours, say 5 or 6 p.m., most of this building is going to be vacant. There's not going to be much activity on this site in the late hours, and Starbucks that late at night isn't a heavy user anyway. It's mostly in the morning, so I don't think that this use really impacts nighttime. The Jericho Starbucks was referenced a couple times. I took a moment to look at an aerial photograph of that during the questions. That layout is substantially different from this one. I think there are only 8 parking stalls on that site, if I was looking at the right one, and there's a 12-car queue before the queue spills out onto Jericho. That's 2 more than what we have. So if you add 2 more cars onto our queue, you might impact 1 stall, whereas that layout backs up onto the street, and we have another 200 feet before that would happen for us. So it's a significantly different layout and experience than this site is going to be. It's basically a skinny Starbucks with the drive-through around it and nothing else. This has a lot more room because of the office component. So there was a question about the hearing the menu or an order point at night. The order board at Starbucks utilizes automatic volume control, which is known as AVC. That decreases the volume of the order board when ambient noise is lower. So, at night or times where there's not a ton of noise just in the area, the volume gets naturally lowered from the order point. So when that AVC is not on, so if basically the loudest it can go, if there's a ton of ambient noise in the middle of the day, the order board is expected to generate sound of approximately 48 decibels at the property line. For reference, a household refrigerator is 50 decibels and a quiet library is 40 decibels. So somewhere between your refrigerator hum that we hear right now and a quiet library.
Was I correct in saying it's 70 feet from the property line?
Correct. The face of the order point is 70 feet from that rear property line. The variance being sought is somewhat confusing because of that interior residential zone line that runs
Right.
on the property. It is only a 5-foot variance in real life, if you will. When that automatic volume control is activated, so at night or other times where there's not a lot of ambient volume, the volume from the order point is going to be decreased to 24 decibels at the property line. For reference, a whisper is 25 decibels, and a quiet natural area with no wind is 20. So it essentially is quiet as it's going to be quieter than the surrounding area at night and other times of low ambient noise. Mr. Menino, being that construction is just ending, engaged with an exterminator and has put down traps around the exterior of the property. Again, that's out of an abundance of caution. Starbucks, given their use, it's not a typical fast food. You're not going to have a ton of food waste getting thrown out. A lot of it is takeaway, so it's not really anticipated as much as a normal use, but Mr. Menino has done that out of caution for the neighbors. And there will be no cameras pointed at any neighbors. The don't think that there are going to be any cameras. Starbucks doesn't have any cameras pointed outwards except for the order point or the window. And at this point, there are no other planned restaurants for the building. If there ever were to be, Mr. Menino would have to come back to the town and obtain those approvals, but that is not under any thought at this point.
Okay. Thank you. Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And again, there's no decision tonight.
Thank you.
You okay?
You want to take a break?
Huh?
You want to take a break?
We're just going to take a 2-minute break.
5 minutes.
The next case on the agenda is case number 18777, Wisconsin Gas Heaven, Inc., 560 Middle Country Road, St. James. The location of the property is the southwest corner of Middle Country Road and Southern Boulevard. The property is zoned WSI. The applicant is requesting a modification of a special exception for a filling station to permit a car wash as an accessory use. A variance of a special exception standard to reduce the required parking from 20 stalls to 18. A variance to increase the maximum area of a ground sign from 40 square feet to 57 square feet. To increase the number of ground signs from a maximum of 1 to 2. To increase the number of wall signs from a maximum of 1 to 2. To increase the maximum permitted gross floor area of an accessory convenience sales from 1,250 square feet to 1,984 square feet.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is John Armentano. I'm an attorney with Farrell Fritz, 100 Motor Parkway, Hauppauge, New York. I also have with me Anil Ergezer, who is a representative of the applicant. I also have with me Mark Pilata, who is our engineer with Key Engineering, and I have Josh Herman, our traffic expert, if there are questions regarding traffic. I've also submitted to the board, along with a record, a booklet which will take you through the site briefly, as well as a traffic report that was submitted in conjunction with this application. As you know, the property is located on 5, and if we look at the booklet, Exhibit 1 gives you the location of the property at 560 Middle Country Road. It's at the southwest corner of Southern and Middle Country Road. Exhibit 2 is an aerial photograph which depicts the subject property location, which, as you know, is currently developed with a gas station and convenience store. The third exhibit is the plan, which does indicate what is being proposed on the site. As you'll note, this is a special permit modification to allow for the renovation of an existing gas station with the addition of a fully automated car wash. The proposal here is to demolish the existing convenience store and construct a larger one at 1,984 square feet, which requires the area variance that we are seeking tonight, and to construct the fully automated car wash, which is located at the northeast corner of the subject property. We are here tonight seeking a modification of the special permit criteria, which requires an increase of the area of the convenience store from 1,250 square feet to 1,984 square feet. We're also seeking a decrease in the parking requirements from 20 to 18. There's also an increase in the signage from 1 to 2. This is a dual fronting property, and it also has 2 uses, so we consider that to be a necessary requirement for this application. The sign is also that we are seeking is 57 square feet where 40 is permitted. And also for the record, the pump islands remain the same. There is no change to the access points. That is an operating gas station, which I'm sure you have observed when you located the property or visited the property. Exhibit 4 is a colorized elevation of what the gas station and the car wash will look like. You have 2 sheets here, and they are self-explanatory. In addition, we have area photographs as Exhibit 5, which show the existing conditions on the site with a canopied gas station and convenience store. Exhibit 6 depicts locations of the surrounding properties, noting it's obviously a commercial development surrounded completely by commercial operations on Middle Country Road. And Exhibit 7 are the prior approvals that were granted for this use. In particular, back in 2021, the town board rezoned this property from LI to WSI, which allows for this permitted use and is consistent with the zoning along Middle Country Road. Those approvals are there for your reference and review. And we also have included in that the prior site plan approval that was granted in March of 2000, as well as the 1969 variance granted for the gas station, the 1979 canopy setback variance, as well as the 1998 CEU for the convenience store. Without getting into great depth, unless you would like it, I know the hour is late. We have our experts here to answer any questions that you may have. It's our position that based on the factor test, this is not a substantial increase. The increase in the convenience store is necessary for a better operation on site. It's a very small convenience store that was there previously. The site is rather large. It's twice the size of many other locations that have this type of a convenience store and this type of use. There are no environmental impacts, obviously, with this type of an application. And although it is a self-created request, that is not supposed to be considered to the detriment of the applicant. We've also reviewed the staff report and agree with the recommendations, which I believe you have seen are for approval. So we're here to answer any questions you may have or the public.
I have a question. How does a self-serving car wash work? You come on the property, do you have to park, go into the convenience store, pay?
This one is a tab automated system, right? That's correct.
Yeah, okay.
Good evening.
Good
So,
evening.
I'm-
State your name and address, please. Spell
Yes,
your last
I'm
name.
Anil Ergezer, ANIL, last name ERGEZER. This is 560 Middle Country Road, St. James. This system's actually very state-of-the-art. You don't really see them much on Long Island. I think there's 2 or 3 examples that have come up in the last year of people that installed automated car wash systems. If you look at the site plan, you can see that it's only a 40-foot tunnel. If you were to have a full-service car wash, you would have 80, 100, 150-foot tunnel. So this system that we're going for is called the Ryco Soft Gloss Max 5. Doesn't take up much footprint. And what you would do is you would go to a pay point, like a screen, enter cash, your credit card, whatever you want, pick which car wash you want. You would pull inside the tunnel, the car would stay stationary, and the system would clean the car.
The system moves back and forth.
Back and forth. It's like it's on some sort of rails.
I've seen that.
Yeah. You see them a lot in like Pennsylvania or upstate. It's nowhere near a full-service car wash. There's no employees to, vacuum cars, dry them off, nothing like that. It's completely independent.
Strictly exterior.
Strictly exterior, yes. But obviously most gas stations have vacuums on site, like a pay vacuum that you would put quarters into. You have the option to do that as well, so.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions?
No.
Please?
Planning prepared a planning advisory report. After review, we recommended approval.
Is there anyone in the audience that would be heard of this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second. Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You want to give me the rest of the thing?
No.
You want to keep it, huh? Here you go.
And that concludes the meeting for tonight.